In this video, I'll demonstrate how to use query editor for some fancy manipulation of futures prices. What I'm building this morning is a calculator for daily revenue protection. And right now I want to build a functionality that will give me expected DRP prices for these months from January 2012 through December 2018, if DRP is purchased anywhere between 1 and 12 months prior to the start of the quarter in which this month resides. The idea is that we may not know the yields, the DRP yields may not be publicly available, but we can approximate DRP performance over the last 6 years if we compare expected and actual prices. Actual prices, of course, come from USDA, and then for certain declared butterfat protein tests, we can see the performance of their revenue protection. So I've done this yesterday for the first time, and I really liked the way futures prices table in UDM can be manipulated. So I thought I would do it again, but this time a little bit more clearer way, and also to record it so I can share it with all of you. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go to data, recent sources, the universal, connect. We'll choose futures tables, daily panel, go to edit. Okay, bringing the editor here. We'll need to select only the futures contracts of interest to us, which are butter, cheese, and dry whey. We have many other futures contracts here, and because this table, when you first load it, comes sorted by report period, which is the sales date, ascending. These dairy products were not traded back in 1959, which is the earliest we have for wheat futures. So what we'll do is we'll first sort report period ascending. That will give us the most recent date. If we refresh the preview, we'll get the data for November 2nd. I'm recording this on November 4th, Sunday, so November 2nd is the Friday, the latest prices. We can now select the futures contract of interest to us. In this particular calculator, I'm not that interested in class 3 or 4 milk futures. I'm only interested in butter, cheese, and dry whey futures from CME. Click OK. Also, I'm only interested in contract months after January 2012 and later. So we'll put is after or equal to 1/1. I did that wrong. Contract period is after or equal to 1/1/2012. I am not interested in many of these columns. I'm only interested in close prices. So I will select these other columns and then click on remove columns. Also, let's extract the date. Okay, so what we've done so far is just clean it up a little bit. Next, I will want to have cheese, butter, and dry whey as 3 columns, so that for every contract month and every report period, I only have 1 row in this table. And different contracts, different commodities will be in different columns. So what I'll do is I'll position myself over product name column, go to transform, pivot column, advanced options. Values are in close price, and I'm not going to aggregate, which means that I want separate records, separate rows for each combination of report period and contract month. Click OK. All right. Okay. So let's see. Cheese futures actually did not start trading until August 2010. So yeah, let's select the report period as well. Let's go back. We filtered the rows so that the contract month is after January 2012. Let's also filter the report period is after or is after or equal to January 1st, 2011. Okay. The next thing we will do is trim the table down to only one sales date per month. So if you look here, first 20 rows are all sales dates in January 2011. I would like to keep only one of them, and I would like to keep the business day that is on or before the 15th of the month, the highest, the latest business day on or before 15th of the month. So how do we do that? First, we'll create a duplicate of the report period. We'll transform it to day. We'll name it day. And then we'll need to group the data by the month. So I will need another duplicate. And this time we're going to transform it to the start of the month. I'll rename this month. Now we'll discard all the records, all the rows that have day higher than 15. So number filters greater than 15. Actually, just the other way around. Keep rows where day is less than or equal to 15. All right. Okay, so what we'll do next is we need to find the maximum day for each month and then remove all other records. So we'll go to Home, Group By, Advanced. So we'll group the data by month, and then we'll have multiple aggregations. For day, we have to calculate the max day. I'll call that max day. And then we'll also need to copy all the rows. And you'll see in a moment why that is relevant. We'll also need to do that for every contract month. Okay. All right, so we'll expand the table. We don't need to use the original names. We don't need to copy contract months because we already had it before. We don't have to copy month because we already had it from before. We'd never removed that one. Okay, so click OK. All right, so now we have max day column for every day. So for this, what this stands for is that in January 2011, the highest business day prior to the or on 15th was 14th. In February it was 15th. In May it was actually 13th because both 14th and 15th were most probably weekends, etc. So now we want to remove the records that don't have the day equal to the max day. So we'll add a conditional column, is max day, if the day column equals the max day, then 1, otherwise 0. All right, now let's select the is max day to show only ones. And we don't need those columns anymore. They serve their purpose. So we can remove is max day, day, and max day. We won't need them anymore. So we'll just remove columns. Okay. The next thing we'll do is calculate the butterfat, other solids, and protein from butter, dry whey, and cheese futures. So we'll start with butterfat. We'll add a custom column. We'll call it butterfat price. Butterfat price is going to be equal to the butter futures minus 0.91991, which is the make allowance for butter, times, I did it wrong. That's the make allowance for dry whey. For butter, the make allowance is 1715 times 1.211. Okay, so a little bit on the Federal Milk Marketing Order formulas. What this is saying is that the marginal cost of processing a pound of butter are 17.15 cents. And the yield is saying that we can get 1.211 pounds of butter from 1 pound of butter fat. So that's the yield. Okay, so therefore this formula will give us the value of butter fat in the pound of butter given the butter futures. One thing I forgot to do is to divide butter futures by 100. And maybe we can actually call this expected butterfat price. I'm going to rename this step. Oh, I need to wait for the calculations to be over. I'm going to rename this step as calculate expected butter fat price. And I'm going to round it. Right click on the header, transform, round. I'm going to round it to 4 decimal points. All right, we'll repeat the same now with other solids. So we'll add a new custom column that we are going to call expected other solids price. It's going to be equal to whey futures, also divided by 100, minus Now we have 1991, which is current make allowance for driveway. It did not change during this period. That's why I can put it as a constant. Otherwise, the procedure would be more complicated if the make allowance was time varying. And we can get 1.03 pounds of driveway from the pounds of other solids, just because there is always some moisture left in. Okay. And another. Okay, so let's calculate that. And again, I'm going to round this. To 4 decimal spots. I'm gonna call this step calculate expected other solids price. Okay, the last one to do is protein. I am going to actually cheat here a little bit. I am going to find the FMMO pricing formula. Pricing formulas, current report. And you can see here the cheese price. I'm always concerned that I'll get the parentheses wrong, so I'm just going to copy this over, create a new custom column. Oops. After the latest step, we'll create a new custom column. We'll call it expected protein price. First thing I'll do is I'll copy the data, copy the formula from USDA. Then I'm going to start removing, instead of cheese price text, I'm going to use the cheese futures minus replaced by multiplication. Again, replace futures. Times dash becomes a minus. We've already calculated the expected butterfat price, so now we get to use it. Okay. I don't need this. No syntax errors have been detected. I think we are good to go. Just a brief second on what this formula represents and why is it more complicated than other formulas. Well, the only ingredient in butter is butterfat. The only ingredient in dry whey are whey solids. The ingredients in cheese are both butterfat and casein. Cheese is a matrix of casein and butterfat. So the hedonic pricing model that we see here accounts for the cost of processing a pound of cheese, which is 20.03 cents. How many pounds of cheese can we get from a pound of protein? How many pounds of cheese can we get from a pound of casein? How many pounds of cheese can we get from a pound of butterfat? How much of that butterfat is actually going to stay in cheese as opposed to be washed away? And what is the ratio of butterfat to protein? Okay, so we have the full formula here. We'll click OK. Just like before, we'll round it up, or rather round it only, not round it up, to 4 decimal spots. We'll rename this step as calculate, not that one, calculate expected protein price. All right, the next thing we need to do is account for the fact that DRP does not offer protection for individual months. It offers protections by quarter, and the expected protein price, as well as butterfat and other solids, are simple averages of expected protein prices, and etc., for 3 months belonging to a particular quarter. So in order to account for that, we need to make a copy of the contract month, convert this to quarters, and then take averages of the expected other solids prices for each quarter. Okay, so we'll duplicate the contract month. No, in the end, we'll duplicate the contract month. We'll transform it to the start of the quarter. So you'll see now this February 2012 is going to become January, March is going to become January, April is going to stay April, so we'll only have January, April, July, and October. Those will be the starting dates of their respective quarters. And we'll rename this quarter. Okay, so now we are ready to start grouping the data. So we'll have to group the data by quarter, but then again, we'll need to group them also by the sales date, which is still called report period. We'll need to take an average of butterfat price, and we can just call it again expected butterfat price. We'll need to take an average of other solids price, and we'll call it expected other solids price, and we'll need to take an average of the protein price, We'll also want to preserve the information on contract months, on the sales dates, etc. So we will want to add all rows, and we'll just call that all for now. And then we are ready to start grouping. Okay, so we need some cleaning up. We have some cleaning up to do. First, let's see. Well, let's first take care of these three by rounding to 4 decimal points. Okay, next, let's see what we would like to expand. All right, so we already have the quarter column here, so we don't need a quarter column. We already have the report period, we don't need another report period. Month and contract month are still going to be useful, so we're going to keep that. We no longer care about the butter, dry whey, and cheese futures. This is about components. And we already have the expected butterfat, other solids, and protein aggregated. So we don't need to bring them again here. So we really just needed month and contract month, and you'll see in a moment why that's relevant. Okay. Let me expand this a little bit. All right, so we have some funny situations right now. We have purchases. Do we? This is all. All right, for example, this one here. So on March 15th, 2012, we purchased the first quarter 2012. How could we do that? Both January and February are already closed. So this butterfat expected butterfat price is really just March 2012 price. We don't want that. So we'll control for that by taking the distance, taking the average between the month and the start of the quarter. So we'll take a new column, custom column. We'll call it time to quarter. Okay, and that's going to be equal to the month in which we purchase minus the quarter. So in the example from row 49, or no, from row 42, this one here, month is March 1st, quarter is January 1st, so this is going to give us about negative 60. And we'll be able to filter out those with negative times. So quarter month minus quarter, that we're going to call it times to quarter. Click OK. All right. You know, I think it might be actually better to do it the other way around. Quarter minus month. Okay, and time to maturity. Now you see we have these numbers that should not be there. To make it robust, rather than selecting it here, we'll do duration filter is greater than 0. Let's see if that works. Okay, one more thing. We want to allow the people to examine how different risk management strategies with their ERP would have worked out. What if they were hedging 1 month ahead all the time, or 2 months ahead, or 3 months ahead before the start of the quarter in question, right? So in order to do that, we'll divide time to quarter by 30 and then round. So we now have time to quarter in number of days, which allows us to, let's see, where would that be? We'll use this one here, standard. Nope, not subtract. Divide by 30. So that's going to give us number of months, roughly, before the start of the quarter. So if the number of months is 1, then because we purchased this on the last business day before the 15th of the month, before or the 15th of the month, that's really the last day to buy that quarter. according to DRP rules. So let's round this now to 0. I'm going to call this hedging horizon. Okay, so example, if the hedging horizon is 12, then we have hedged January 2012 on January 14th, 2011, etc. We no longer need time to quarter. We'll remove it. And the last thing we'll need to do is to create an index that will help us when we want to reference this table using VLOOKUP commands. And the index is going to combine the contract month and hedging horizon. That will allow us to use hedging horizon as a parameter and to then select the appropriate contract month with VLOOKUP commands. So I'll first make a copy of these two columns one at a time, I guess. And if that's not clear, what I'm describing, it will be clear very soon after we plug this into Excel. And there is a need to reference the source table from our dashboard. Okay, so we won't bother making a nice name for this because it's only going to be there for a second. Here's a copy. Select first horizon, copy, then contract month, then go to home or transform, excuse me, merge columns, separator, custom, dash, call it index or VLOOKUP index. Let's see if this works out. Yes, it worked. So this is now VLOOKUP index. We'll move this to the beginning of the table. We'll move all the dates there. So hedging horizon we'll put right after that. Then quarter, contract month, month. We'll rename report period as sales effective date. And we have our data ready. We have all the expected prices for quarters by hedging horizon and ready to be plugged in. Close and load. We can rename the table. Actually, before we go, let's do that. We'll just put this DRP expected prices components. All right, close and load. So this is a pretty large table, pretty set of pretty complex transformations. This is likely not something that you want to update every time you recalculate a premium. There's certainly no need for that. Maybe update this once a month when USDA announces new prices, or even once per quarter when the new announced prices for the quarters or the full quarter can be calculated, when the actual prices can be calculated for the quarter. So what I've done earlier yesterday is the first tab of this DRP calculator. Let me So yesterday I've built a calculator that allows the producers to choose their state, quarter, declare butterfat protein coverage level, milk production. Let's expand this a little bit. Protection factor and declared share, and then by clicking on this button, there a macro would be started. You can actually see which macro would start. Macro would start that would say refresh all connections, and then there are a number of hidden sheets here. You can see that work in the background that are updated with the selected practice, state, etc. And then the premium is calculated here, and all the quotas do that from all the authorized insurance providers and a number of and also private quotas that I've seen from crop insurance agents and brokerages. What I wasn't satisfied with is that none of those quotas would give you the probability of indemnity, so I built the logic that does that, or probability of positive net benefit, and how that changes with the coverage level. Also, I think it's really critical that we educate users of DRP on the what-if analysis. Well, how does my payout change if cheese drops from $1.60 to $1.50? What does that do? Do to the protein price? What does that do to the indemnity? So that's what I've done yesterday. The task today, here we go. This is done. So let's just make it a little bit pretty. All the golden, so the color coordination is the following. Everything that's golden looking is pulled directly from the cloud. Everything that is light blue is for users to populate with their data. And then everything that is green is calculated by the tool itself and should not be modified. We'll make it so that it cannot be modified. And we are currently building the historical performance tab, and then we'll later add the basis analysis. This is data for one processor in the upper Midwest, and their pay prices for butterfat, protein, and other solids. So we'll build later the basis analysis as well. So the task at hand now is, of course, to calculate the expected revenue protection price for various months, and we already pulled in the actuals, so we'll see how the DRP performed. Let's call this tab now DRP expected prices. These VLOOKUP index are what's going to be useful. So going back here, just to get us started, we'll put the hedging horizon here. We'll make it pretty later, but here let's say that we start with 3. So we're always buying protection 3 months before quarter is to start. So we'll need to build the VLOOKUP indices first. All right, so this is our index. We just use the simple concatenate command and the text command. So now we have an index, 3/11/2012. If you compare that to expected prices, that would be, let's see. Oh, it's hard to see it. So for example, if I chose 12, as a horizon. And then the index would be 12/1/1/2012, which would correspond to the first row here. And now we can say find the data using VLOOKUP, using this as an index in this big table. So just mark the entire table. And then for butterfat, we will need the column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Column 7, false, because we want the exact match. 168.97, 168.97. There we have it. For protein, oh, we'll need to do absolute references here, or partially absolute. For protein, it's going to be the column 8. Nope. Protein is column 9. Other solids, it's column 8. Propagate the index. No, before we do that, we need to make the reference for the hedging horizon selection absolute. Propagate the index to all the cells. Propagate the cells. And we have expected prices for the DRP for all of these years. We'll make this golden because it's also pulled from the cloud with some manipulations. Okay, what else do we need? We need to declare protein and test. We use this as named ranges to declare butterfat test and declare protein test. We'll use that same data here. So we need to calculate the expected and actual price. So let's insert, merge. So what is guaranteed revenue per hundredweight? We first need to calculate the expected price, then multiply by the coverage level percent. So we'll make it butterfat price times declared butterfat test plus protein price times declared protein test plus other solids price times 5.7. That would be our guaranteed revenue per hundredweight. And then declared coverage level percent. So this would be our guaranteed revenue per hundredweight. Let's just put some rounding on it. Let's put 2. Okay. So this is what we have protected per hundredweight. Now let's calculate what the actual prices were. We don't actually know what the actual revenue per hundredweight would be under DRP if we don't know what the yields are and you know the yield adjustment factor. But to keep it simple, we can do this analysis. We of course don't know the expected yields as well. We can do this analysis just by working with prices. So same as before, butterfat price times declared butterfat test. This is also assuming that producers didn't over-declare butterfat and would have to have their actual or guaranteed revenue adjusted down. If you have Holsteins that produce 3.5, and if you declare 5.0 butterfat, that's not going to work out. The program is designed to help producers, not those that would just would like to manipulate the system. So protein times declared protein test plus other solids times 5.7. This is your actual revenue. Let's put again round 2. This has to be green because it's calculated inside the system. Let's move this a little bit out. Indemnity. So indemnity is going to be the max of guaranteed minus actual if positive, otherwise 0. Okay, so let's see how would it have performed. Let's this is for 12 months out. So first thing we see that from January 2012 through October 2018, the average indemnity was 43 cents, assuming again no yield shocks. If we let's see what we did here. So this is April, June 2019. And that would be now 3 months, 4, 5 months. We are now in this. So so today hedging April, June 2019 is a hedging horizon 5 months out. So let's put hedging horizon 5. All the indices were changing. All the indemnities have adjusted. How did it work out? On average, it paid out 35 cents over the last 82 months for which we have. And the premium producer pays is 19 cents. Total premium 34 cents. So this is what's meant by actuarially fair insurance, that over a long period of time, the premium will equal indemnity. So 34 cents premium, 35 cents indemnity over the last 82 months. But because the insurance is subsidized by 44% subsidy for 95% coverage level, then you have the subsidy of 15 cents, producer premium 19 cents. So the way to understand the subsidy amount is that if you do this DRP over many years, your income will go up on average by the amount of the subsidy, on average. However, you also have to be patient. If you look at here, for example, the entire 2013, from April 2013 through all of 2014, 0 payments, 0. And then the first quarter of 2015, $1.62. Then again, nothing to write home about for 2 quarters. Then $1.48. Then again, a full 2006 from July 2016 through July 2017, nothing. No, did I say June? From July 2016 through June 2017, nothing, and then $2 payments in the first quarter of this year. So on average, it will pay out as much as the full premium. Again, average 35 cents here. And on average, it will increase your income by the amount of the subsidy. In this case, 15 cents per hundredweight. Or if you're producing million pounds a quarter, that's 4 million pounds a year, then this would be about what, $6,000 increase in your income per year if you do it consistently. If I calculated that. I'll continue to make this pretty, but now you've seen the full process of going from raw data, futures data, to creating a table that has all kinds of manipulations, has an index that can be used in Excel, and then finally the payload, the analysis that allows you to communicate to your clients, to your stakeholders, your extension educators, how would this program perform historically if there were no yield shocks that would either augment or reduce the premiums. In general, yields are forecast in such a way that on average they're correct. Of course, in any one quarter, the forecast may be either too optimistic or too pessimistic, but it's properly rated. Yeah. So, Bozic out.